Hi, my name is Wayne Bible, and this is my presentation on hydroelectric dams of Maine for ARC 531 Advanced Architecture History. You might not know it, but Maine has more coastline than the state of California, approximately 3,500 miles. Knowing that, it may not be surprising that there are more than 1,000 dams in the state. And of those dams, 103 are major hydroelectric, with an average age of 104 years old. Historically, the riverways were used to power mills for grain, lumber, carting, and paper. All still major economic drivers in the state to date, just not as dependent on the riverways. Moreover, the state of Maine has a thick legal charter laying out goals to become more economically self-sufficient and resilient for all aspects of its economy. One of those goals is to have an entire electric grid sourced from renewable energy by 2050. And though dams are a renewable source of energy, studies have shown that dams have a major impact on their immediate and broader environment and ecological systems. Finding solutions and taking actions to delicately dismantle these structures and reclaim waterways while increasing renewable energy is a complex undertaking, but work that needs to be done. Seen in the video just now was the dam in Old Town, Maine, just north of Bangor. This is the closest hydroelectric dam to where I live in Ellsworth, Maine. Of the 103 large dams I had mentioned, only 51 are still in compliance and licensed with the state and actively supplying energy to the grid, meaning many are left unstaffed and in increasing disrepair. But with 30,000 miles of river, even 100 years ago, hydroelectricity was an inevitable, obvious choice for renewable energy in the state, even far before the climate crisis. Annually, the 51 plants generate 726 megawatts of fossil fuel-free electricity. This constitutes 31% of the state's overall generation and 47% of the renewable generated electricity. Here's an old postcard and another view of the Ellsworth Dam close to where I live. Hydropower has a pretty broad history and is not exclusive to Maine, but dams have been built for necessity in Maine since European settlers arrived, primarily for grain and lumber. But as the population grew and flour milling technologies advanced in the 1800s, the majority of the hydroelectric dams were privately built by lumber companies to power the mills. A key figure, Walter Wyman, the founder of Central Maine Power, saw the potential in hydroelectric to supply entire towns and cities in Maine. He eventually acquired many of the smaller existing dams and power companies, and with the increasing demand at the turn of the century, that meant larger and more dams were desired. The first of these large dams, and still the largest dam in the state today, 3,000 feet, is the Wyman Dam in Somerset County in Bingham. The great thing about hydropower is that it truly is carbon-free in the economy of scale. The cost is very little for a very long-term output. But not only the energy, which seems to be endless, there are other benefits to the hydro dams. That includes flood mitigation, a source of managed drinking water, agricultural irrigation, the assistance of fire control systems, and the creation of beautiful lakeside scenery and settings for recreation. So it is without a doubt that over the last 100 years, these hydroelectric dams have become core elements and central to the development of towns in the state at large. But that doesn't mean they haven't come with controversy since the beginning. And that's because of their direct impact on another natural resource, the natural passageways of fish and other aquatic life forms, as well as the dispersal of rich sediments that would naturally nourish the ecological systems downstream. The reality is this reclamation process is challenging given the scale of the established infrastructure of the dams, but with so many of the dams abandoned and in disrepair, something needs to be done, especially for key species such as the endangered freshwater salmon. With the health of that population both ecological and economic impacts would be for the better. Challenges arise in the relevance of the state's other common goal, however, for 100% renewable energy. And to deepen that is the legal complexity of the fact that a Canadian multinational investment firm owns and operates 41 of the 51 major dams in Maine, which constitutes 90% of that hydroelectricity produced. Brookfield has been the center of many legal battles with the state and seems to be contently entrenched in its holdings. On top of that, the government, and this is the federal government, ironically financially incentivizes programs in both camps of these separate environmental issues, which is a good thing. And though they are expensive to repair and maintain, keeping them is cheaper than constructing new plants for alternate energy. And overall, the source and cost is much lower than other forms of energy, which means many of these dams will remain. So, no matter what side of this issue you're on, there's extensive work needed on multiple fronts. This century old infrastructure, the dams themselves, seem to be silently spilling over with issues that require immediate attention of their community members. The environment, local communities, the state, and the federal government, as well as private international companies, all have stake. Yet the dams persist, a firm historical landmark, holding fast, that are still successful contributors to the hearts of the economy, bolstering the state resiliency and helping it achieve long-term environmental goals. And on the other hand, many of these structures are a dragging load on the ecological resource here in the state, and therefore the economic reality as well. It is a large, complex set of issues that can only be resolved one dam at a time. Thank you.